Right, well, so it's been so chaotic, I've not actually had time to talk about the other part of this update. And the first thing that is new that I want to talk about that's not technically related to this Halloween update is the Slasher Tower rework. Well, it's actually more of a complete overhaul because it's had its skin redesigned. They were the old models from like 2020 overhaul updates and were therefore pretty out of date. Now it's been updated to be more of the current era of TDS. Towers that are more basic, more of the 2020 style. So it's the Commando, Swarmer, Toxic Gunner, Archer, and the Gladiator, but only its default skin. And maybe the Beach Gladiator. You cannot get the Slasher anymore because it's part of the event of 2019, that 2019 Halloween event, so you can't get it anymore. Oh, you can there's a game pass for it actually. Never mind. It used to be nearly 600 Robux, and now it's 750 Robux because it's been reworked. I suspected it will come back, and it has come back. It's no longer an early game tower because it costs 1,500. Previously, it used to cost 450 to place down, and that's so you're nearly paying like 3 times as much. You're paying over 3 times as much to place it down. It's changed where it's operates, so it's no longer an early game tower, more of a mid game tower. But the thing about event towers is they're not usually the best in their field. Normally there are better towers to place down because otherwise you get piss people off, like there was with the Gladiator where it was like one of the best early game towers. So I shouldn't expect it to be a good mid game tower, but let's see how it fares. As you can see, the Slasher has a smaller placement footprint compared to the other towers here. So as you can see, it's actually doing quite well against the enemies that spawn, especially early on, because its fire rate has decreased from 0.55 to 0.4. The range has remained the same at 5, but the damage has increased from 3 to 6. So I'll see how it compares to the DPS later, but it's doing quite well. It's holding quite well. However, you have to bear in mind this is a one-hit tower, and so it's not like a Gladiator where it can hit multiple enemies at the same time. But it does seem to have like some sort of critical hits. Yeah, it actually does have a critical damage. Every third swing it deals 15 damage. I believe is 2.5 times 6 rounded down. Yeah, no, it's actually just 2.5 exactly. It does so every third swing. For all of the Slasher stats, it's every third swing it does a critical hit. And it deals 2.5 damage at level 0. But the one negative about this is it's had its placement limit nerfed from infinity, to 12. So you can only have 12 slashers. However, the one thing is it cannot throw its knife. Knife throw ability has not been added at this level, and I don't think this gets it at any level. Anyways, the DPS for the Slasher has increased quite massively from 5.38 to 22.06, so a 3 times price increase for a about a 4 times increase in DPS, which I think is quite good. You're limited by the amount of flash that you can place down. Moving on to level 1 now. At level 1 it costs 800 coins or cash to get hidden detection, and you get a fire rate decrease of 0.4 to 0.35, and it does fare quite well against hidden enemies. Now, compared to before, the Slasher used to have a normal damage of 4, while this current Slasher has a normal damage of 6. Its swing rate previously was 0.4, and now it's decreased to 0.35. None of this multiplier shit that it used to have. Now it used to throw its knife, but overall, that does mean the DPS of the Slasher has increased from 9.8 to 25.14. However, the total cost of this tower has increased from 800 to 2,300. So I think that's more of a rework more than anything. It still does fare pretty well. While this boss comes, let's move on to level 2, where it gets the unique ability, to have a bleed debuff. Now this bleed debuff is, shall we say, the mechanics of it is quite complicated in how everything's calculated. There are a lot of things behind the scenes that are calculated. When it's attacked, will start to bleed after it has stopped receiving regular damage from the Slasher in question. So because this Slasher is no longer attacking this enemy, the bleed debuff, as it's called, no longer applies to that enemy, so that it constantly receives damage. Apparently, it detonates all the blood, and it will... There was a short cooldown before the bleed can be applied again. At this level also, for 3,500, the range is increased from 5 to 5.5, 0.35 to 0.7, and then 6 damage to 20 damage. To before, you can't really compare it to before because the equivalent would be level 3, but even that was only 4,000. While this is a total cost of 5,800. The rework is so drastically different, there's no point comparing it. But the bottom line is, the DPS of the slasher has increased from 14.71 to 42.37. And even if you compare it to level 3, which is the level where the slasher is more comparable to the level 2 slasher here, it's increased from 32.48 to 42.37 for only like 1,000 increase. Yeah, here you can see the bleed mechanic doing its thing. The damage, there's a long, complicated formula behind the amount of damage it's being dealt, based on the maximum amount of health that the enemy has. I'm not going to go too much into it, mainly because it'll probably be revealing secrets, but yes, it's there. Meanwhile, for level 3, Slasher costs $7,000. In total, that's 12,800, which is more than the max level was previously. But what do you get for this? Well, you get 25 more damage. The fire rate decreases to 0.6 after having increased to 0.7. But to counteract that, you obviously get the damage increase. The critical damage multiplier, which is the multiplier that the enemy is damaged by on the third swing, has increased from 2.5 to 3. So on that swing, it deals 135 damage. It's a lot. Oh, by the way, I was wrong about the bleed mechanic. It's not when it's out of range. It's just that this didn't have it. The upgrade... No, when it attacks an enemy, it starts to bleed automatically. Anyways, in terms of DPS, I might as well compare the level 3 here to the level 4 previously. The Slasher used to deal 77.92 DPS. This Slasher deals 123.36, which is quite good. Now, as you can see, it's not doing that well against breakers, because 4s aren't its thing. They can't hit multiple enemies. Yeah, don't rely on the Slasher for breakers. It's not good. Meanwhile, for level 5, it costs a whopping $20,000 to upgrade to. In total, that's 32,800 without any DJ buffs or cost debuffs or whatever. For this, the damage is 60. Critical damage is 210. Swing rate is 0.5. The critical multiplier has increased to 3.5. The amount of bleeding it can apply to enemies is 2, and its range has increased to 6. Therefore, the DPS for the Slasher has actually increased to 216. In comparison to before, that used to be, the maximum used to be 77. I mean, obviously that was like 3 times less expensive, but it's still a buff. I think this is quite a good buff, like on individual enemies, especially because it's a melee tower that's dealing 200 DPS. I'm not sure any other the other DPS towers deal that much. 177.2 DPS while having a placement limit of 15, so technically it might have more DPS potential. But pound for pound, the Slasher is a better DPS tower. Furthermore, DPS doesn't actually include the bleed damage that is being applied to enemies, so actually the statistics for this is actually better than 216 DPS. You might be getting around closer to 250 probably, maybe. How well does this fare against boss enemies? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this has any immunities to being stunned, and that's quite a bad thing when it comes to melee enemies. Most other melee towers have some sort of immunity against stuns, because if it stuns like right as it's about to enter the range of the Slasher, then the Slasher isn't going to do any damage until it gets unstunned, which will be about here, and then by that point it's dealt barely any damage for it to be worth it. And likely the range buff actually works on this. Yeah, the range buff works. It's fine. Not like the Gladiator. But I think this tower is a very good representation of London. Like this person clearly grew up on the streets of like Peckham or Hackney. That's a joke, by the way. I'm pretty sure Peckham, and I go past Peckham every day. Peckham is a lovely place. Wow, some parts of Peckham. But overall, if you're going to rely on the slasher, you probably need a splash damage tower, a tower that deals damage to multiple enemies, because while this is a very good individual tower, it's not a very good splash damage tower. It also has quite short range, like as most melee towers do. The disadvantage with this tower is you can't really, there's no ability that makes it impervious to stuns. Yeah, get stunned quite badly. Oh, the bleed mechanic does apply to this. Get out of range of this one. Okay, slasher overrated. It can't beat the molten boss. Wow. Yeah, the stunning of the towers is the main downfall of this. It would be otherwise a very good tower. Otherwise, probably bordering on one of the best mid-game / end-game towers. But otherwise, it's not. Getting stunned is just too much. Too much of a criteria at this stage for a melee tower. Take the melee tower. Don't avoid London. No, wait, no, don't. Wait.